Let's ground ourselves. Oh my God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Deep breaths. Wow. Tuesday, September 26th, 2023. Wow. And it's 8:24 p.m. What a time. The last episode I made public was 3 months ago. Now, it doesn't mean I recorded it 3 months ago, because we all know, if you've been listening, you know I was going through it. I think the very last episode I actually recorded probably was, I want to say June or something. Thank God. Thank God I'm here. Thank God you're here. I'm so grateful, and just want to take a moment to just, ground ourselves, ground ourselves, for me to ground myself, because, nossa, gente, saudades, saudades. Eu falei que ia fazer e ia me esforçar pra fazer, porque isso de, eu vou esperar que eu me sinta motivada. Não, não dá, gente, não dá. Isso é falsidade, isso é falsidade. Você não deve esperar pela motivação vir. Isso não é assim. Você faz as coisas pra se manter motivado, sabe? Isso aí é um negócio que não sei quem foi que, eh, como que fala? I don't know who sold us that, but you gotta do stuff to be motivated and to stay motivated. You don't, wait to feel motivated to do them. And I've always thought that was an interesting perspective. I'm like, oh, so whoever was selling us that was really, they really, they really messed up and they failed us. But here I am, and I am just so so grateful. Um, I mean, I really am practicing, and I know I'm practicing. I want to practice to be consistent, because that's really what maintains, these projects. I think oftentimes, if you've been following me for some time on Instagram and throughout my time in college and creating certain, projects or blogs, I tend to start a lot of things and have these ideas, and then all of a sudden it just becomes too much, and I only get so far. But I think this is all a way for me to, I'm so happy that I even do that, because it means, I'm putting a little bit like my the way I work. And I was there's actually this, I guess, a digital creator that considers themselves nicheless nicheless, I think, is the way to say it. And I feel like I'm very much that, in a sense that man, there's just so many things I'm passionate about, and I've always wanted to dive in. And that's why I always found myself creating these things, and then I'm like, okay, it just doesn't feel right anymore, or like, I don't know. And so I'm happy that I've essentially wet my toes in multiple things, and I can, like, continue to find, okay, where does it feel right? Okay. And I think definitely talking is one of them, whether it's like at speaking engagements, which I'm very grateful that I've done, and that, like, it really, I've come to realize it really, really brings me excitement, and doing this really brings me excitement whenever I talk about it with people as well. Um, and so I just, thank you, gratidão para todos, as pessoas que tenham ouvido já os 3 episódios, né, que estão no ar. Em, e eu também sinto saudades, né, de falar português aqui. Am, então, esse episódio, já tinha um tempo que eu queria gravar, só que aconteceram algumas coisas, né. Primeiramente, deixa eu ser sincera, onde eu moro, aqui no meu apartamento, eu não tenho ar-condicionado. Não, não. Por quê? Porque muito caro pra comprar. Eu tenho mais prioridades, né, como sobreviver, tipo comer. E aqui na cidade de Nova York, se você conhece, é muito caro, muito caro. É isso, ar-condicionado é muito caro. A parte disso, a luz the light bill, não sei como fala isso, bill, a conta de luz aumenta. Gente, eu não consigo. Então, e pra ser sincero, gente, a gente não precisa ar-condicionado muitas vezes. Acho que por eu não sei, uma comodidade, commodity. Eu sou muito dessas pessoas que, cara, se eu não preciso, se não é necessário pra eu sobreviver, tá tudo bem, tá tudo bem. Eu posso, tipo, sacrificar os meus sonhos algumas vezes quando eu não consigo dormir muito bem, mas eu esqueci a palavra em português, eu aprendi. Fan. I have two fans. Well, I used to have this one that's now in the living room, and I used to use it here, but that one was it's not too good to be. They don't let you sleep when it's too hot. Aí eu comprei um aqui que fica muito, tipo, é bem melhor e eu durmo bem, tá tudo bem. Então, eu falo isso porque pra gravar, fazer gravar um podcast com o fan. Cara, vamos falar fan. Deixa eu procurar a tradução. Que eu tinha aprendido, né, a palavra fan. Fan. Google Translate. Como que fala fan? No. Oh my god. Falou fan. Não é fan. Fan to sleep. Ventilador. Ventilador? Não sei. É isso. Então, aí, como eu tenho, eu preciso ter o ventilador é, acesso, se fala? On. É, atrapalha com o som, né? Aí não dá. A outra, a outra razão pela qual eu não gravei foi que, infelizmente, a minha família, a gente na minha família teve uma perda, né? De uma pessoa, de uma amiga que era muito próxima a gente cresceu com ela lá na República Dominicana. E, cara, eu não ia, eu sinceramente não ia conseguir gravar esse episódio que é especialmente falando sobre as perdas, o grief, né? Então, é isso, né? Yeah. I was not gonna be able to record in the heat while the fan was like, the audio was just not. It was not gonna work. And on top of that, I was explaining that, my family and I we lost someone, a really close family friend, unfortunately, and you know, when I was considering recording when it was, not getting, I mean, it wasn't too hot, or starting to get chilly. That happened, and recording this episode while that happened, I was like, no, it's not good. I just need to grab my water bottle. Sorry, guys. I, the nerves. Okay. So estoy muy contenta de estar aquí y regresar, ¿no? Yo estaba, el último episodio, o sea, lo publiqué por publicarlo nada más, no o sea, necesariamente no era que quería, porque encontré que estaba bien desorganizado y de ahí, bueno, yo tenía muchos temas que quería hablar y como el tiempo no me dio y aún me estoy acoplando, ¿no? A todo esto, yo decidí preguntar en mi Instagram eh, cuáles son los temas que le interesan más a la gente. Como, like, what topics would interest you the most that I'd speak about today. And I gave in the options. Let me read them here because I screenshotted the answers. Okay, so I gave four options, right, of what the next episode should be about because I was really debating and I just have so many stories and things to share that I want to make sure I keep it's all doable in one episode. I gave the option of navigating grief, navigating parents divorcing, my relationship with suicide and ideation, navigating being publicly humiliated. The top one was navigating grief at a 53%, and second to that was navigating being publicly humiliated, and the third one was my relationship with suicide and ideation. The navigating parents divorcing was at 0%. Anyways, so this episode is gonna be about, navigating grief, which I think it's tough. It's tough, and I feel comfortable to share my experience. Mainly because I mean I've gone through so many of them. Uh, Unfortunately, and I'm also very grateful for the experience, because I think if you allow yourself, you gain a lot from the processes. And yeah, so I mean, from what I mentioned in the previous episodes, again, this podcast is me jumping from languages to languages, literally how I would speak about, day to day, whether it's by myself or with friends, from Portuguese to Spanish to English. So I try my best to provide context and all of that. But I think for this podcast, I'll probably I mean, I'll see how it goes, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be mostly in English, tá? Então, aqueles que falam inglês e português, beleza, tá? Que eu acho que eu vou falar mais inglês neste episódio, mas aí a gente vai tentar, né? Aqueles que entenderam, coloca nos comentários, explica pra gente aí, o pessoal, né? Me not finding a way to sit. Um, okay, so, um, I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed, and I acknowledge that. Just me thinking about the fact that I'm even here, being able to share all of this, I think it's a blessing. I just, when you have those moments of reflection and like you pause and you're like, wow, I'm really doing this. I'm blessed and I don't take it for granted. Um, okay. I, you know, if you haven't noticed, like most of this, I guess first season of this podcast is about a little bit just laying a foundation of who I am and my stories, and this is part of it. Okay, then hopefully the second season or part of the podcast, I'd start, interviewing people and having conversations with other people. And so hopefully I get to have a conversation with someone to go back and forth regarding grief, because I think that's always, I mean, I can only give so much and share so much. I would always love to go back and forth and sort of like, get into reflecting with someone else's perspective. Um, with that being said, if there's anything I say that catches your attention, or like you want to share anything on or give your opinion on, or your 2 cents, you're more than welcome to just comment or even message me about it, and I can do my best to I guess respond. I feel like I'm stalling a little bit because I don't know. I'm trying for things to happen like last time. Okay. All right. So I I guess I'd like to start with, when was my first experience with grief, right? Um, and I mentioned a little bit, I think, at the end of the last episode. I was about 7 years old, I think, when I recall, my very first experience with grief. And it was losing a really close uncle of mine that I felt very connected to, and I felt like the reason for me feeling connected to him was because he provided a lot of emotional support that I probably was lacking at that time in my life. It was actually when I recently immigrated here to the US. And he passed away, and it really struck me because I remember little Naomi understanding what it meant, and like the fact that he was not gonna return. And I recall writing a letter to him, and I don't know. I think my mom like might have given me this idea. I don't know who, but I wrote a letter to him, which I'm not sure if you know, but I'm much of a writer. I like writing, and and I've always loved it. And I guess it's one of the best ways that I can express myself. I wrote a letter to him, and I recall vividly going to his coffin and just placing it on top of him vividly. And I just like sometimes I think about what does he think about the letter? I don't even remember what I wrote in the letter, and I wish I did. But that experience was sort of like my first introduction to what it meant to losing someone. And it's painful, and I guess it saddens me a bit thinking about my younger self that leaned on like so much to him for that emotional support whenever I visited. And just like it just felt so comforting, and I know I needed that so much at that time, so it's kind of sad. And so I mean, there's only so much little Naomi could think of, and I don't remember a lot other than that. Like I just know that moment at the funeral. I don't recall anything else regarding my uncle, and other than like the memories that I had before he passed. Um, you know, the deaths that followed after that was when I was in high school, and these really really hit. Uh, I mean, there's moments that I just there's moments that come upon me, and I just tear up so much and like cry because whenever I think about them and the joy that these people in my life brought into my family, um, I don't know, and one of the things that I noted here is that grief is it never ends. It never ends. It's a part of you. It becomes a part of your story. It it's not who you are, but it does become a part of you. There's no like, oh yeah, that happened and that's it. No, every day, every day, you know, you think about it. At least for me, these people. I don't think there goes a day when I don't like they don't come to mind. Um, and yeah, so in high school, actually, 1 year, well, I think 3 months after they have like a 3 month difference when it happened. I can't recall exactly what year in high school, but it was pretty, I'd say early on, maybe my sophomore year or so. I don't know. And it was my aunt who oh it's coming. Um my aunt who I visited a lot in the weekends. Like it was such a tradition for my dad to take my brother and I to her home in the weekends to play with my cousins. And she had three boys. Yeah. I love them. Three boys, and I was the only girl and I recall um how loving she was, and especially in her taking care of me and her trying to figure out, okay, how do I do her hair, because she has three boys and she doesn't or didn't know how to do hair for girls. And so she was also like the amount of emotional support that she provided me. She had such an emotional intelligence as an adult that I don't think I had seen or experienced. Like I just had this connection with her where I'm like, wow, I love how loved and seen I feel by her, and it just felt safe. It felt very safe. And so she passed away, and it's so, I mean, to this day I get one of the things, it's so upsetting because I didn't get to see her like since the moment I left the Dominican Republic and started living here permanently, which was when I want to say 11 or 12. Like like most of my childhood I lived back and forth, but I never got to see her again after that. I think she might have, maybe I'm mistaken. I think she might have visited once to here, um, to try and start get treatment. I'm not sure. Probably once I saw her after that, but it's just, it so upsets me that I couldn't see her while she was going through, her being sick. And yeah, so she passed away, and I think about 3 months after or so, or four, my grandmother, which is her mom, passed away, and man, that was such a tough year for our family. Um, mm, and my grandmother, she was like, when they say like, like that was the person that kept the family together. She was that. She was the sole reason people would come together and like celebrate and dance around and create these family dinners and whatnot. Um, and so she had cancer, and both of these passed away from cancer. My uncle had passed away. I think it was from a heart attack, if I recall. And so my grandmother, she had been diagnosed with cancer years ago, and after my um for some bit it had calmed down a bit, and after my aunt passing away, it had, I guess, relapsed. I'm not sure if that's a correct terminology. It had come back, and given how much, like, how intense things were for her when her daughter passed away, she just, her body couldn't keep up. um it was really heartbreaking. And like when people say, like, you can die of a heartbreak, you can really die of a heartbreak. I think a lot of people don't take that to heart. No pun intended. um, and so I, mom, wanted to see that. Whoever you would talk to in our family about her, she's such a woman warrior. Like the way, the sacrifices, and just how she carried herself, and the humility, and a lot of who I am is because of the things she taught her children, which is my mom. And just this sense of, regardless of how much you have, you always give back. Always give back. And you have, no matter how little or how much, you always have enough to give back to those who need it most. And uh yeah, so like those two deaths were really, really, big in my family. And as a teenager navigating that, I think, how did I feel? um I mean, I was very, that it was painful. It was very, very painful. Especially, I think one of the things that hurt the most was seeing my mom break down. Like, I think a lot of people my age rarely see their parents cry, and that was my case, at least for me. And so seeing my mom cry, oof, man, it was a lot. It was a lot, and I mean, it's heartbreaking. Not only that, the process. Oh, my god. I recall so many times we had to visit her in the hospital, and this period when she was passing away, I remember we visited her in the hospital. I remember this like it was yesterday. And then the next time we visited her, she was in her apartment. At this point, she was in bed. What's it called, a bed rest? I'm not a bed rest. Like, they all knew what was gonna happen, what was coming. She was in her last days, and I think about, the sacrifices, and just how, oh man, the struggle, the suffering of my aunts and uncles, my mom, because they had to work, you know, provide for their family, and at the same time, like they were on, they were just on rotation, trying to help her and go to her. And I remember when they told us, "Oh, we have to, we have to go say bye to." Oh, this is tough. So beautiful. It really is. This is what I mean. It never ends. I feel like the intensity of these emotions are very similar to just it just brings me back. And um yeah, they told us that we had to say goodbye, my siblings and I, and we went the last time. And this is very, very, like, I guess not being too vulnerable, but as a kid, fun fact about me, one of my, I guess, dreams was to become an artist, like a singing, like singing or singer. And I had this courage of like getting up in family reunions and like putting on a whole performance or like singing or covering a song. Lord knows. And there was one song that I sung in particular, and this was, I think, when my dad arrived to the US for the first time, and that was No Me Doy por Vencido by Luis Fonsi. Because I was so excited my dad was here and all that, and it was also one of my favorite songs, like, man, yo no me doy por vencido. If you know, you know. And I sung that, and thankfully my grandmother was alive to see that. And one of the last things I did when I went to visit her and she was laying, you know, in the bed, the camera was about to die. So, I mean, to stop recording, so I had to um restart. So yeah, one of the things I did when I saw her in the bed and they had told me that I had to say goodbye. Um, oh my I've always been very hopeful in any and every situation. I've always been very hopeful and optimistic. And man, I had this really, really, like, I really wanted to believe that she was gonna get through it, and that she was gonna, you know, um, just come out of it. And so I just remember, I mean, there was probably just a lot of embrace with her. And I just remember telling her, like, Mama, recuerda lo que le dije, ¿verdad? Or, I don't know, something along this line, like, recuerde, así como dice Luis Fonsi, yo no me doy. And I remember oh, I think I kind of was like trying to sing it to her. I don't know if I could, and I'm sure I was kind of crying. And I just remember her lips like mimicking or like lip singing because she didn't have much left. And so um oh, just I think 2 days later, very shortly, we got the confirmation that she passed away. And I can't. It hurts me every time I think about what my mom went through and seeing that process, because I mean no one deserves that. But we're all undeserving. We're all very undeserving, and I mean of this life in general. It's really, I don't know. I'm grateful for that experience, and it was too much happening that year, like emotionally, and I'm grateful that it hurt so much because with these two people, my aunt and my grandmother, I hold like I had such a close bond with them. My aunt seeing me grow up in the Dominican Republic and be in that support system. And then my grandmother, who, I mean, she helped raise us while we were in the Dominican Republic, babies, or while I was, and then when I came here, she continued, raising us, and it was just, Uh, Honestly, just a blessing. It's a blessing having known them and having and had them in my life and continue having them in my life, because if there's one thing I even made note of here, I think, you know, we are such eternal beings when we live, you know, at least when we live very significant lives and we carry ourselves with intention and with love. And I've seen that all throughout in the way um all these beings that have passed away have presented themselves in my life every single day. And so, you know, I I'm a huge believer of that. Although our physical form one day is no longer here, our spirit really lives, and it's why it's so important for me to be intentional in how I carry myself, and to remember that I'm like, all of this is way, like, it's way greater than anything I could ever be. It's way greater than, and only God knows, and I want to always remind myself that, place my, my faith in God and what He's created, and like that's the most important part. And that's what I think helps me carry the life that I carry, and what my grandmother taught a lot of us. And so, seeing that as a teenager, and seeing the way someone, just the different faces of, although I didn't get to see her very closely, but visiting her at the hospital, and then seeing her literally like having to say goodbye to her like that. I mean, we say goodbye to people day to day, but when you know that this person, their physical form is never going to return, it's a different feeling. It's nothing, I mean, you would never be able to grasp unless you experience something of that nature. And it's very beautiful because I don't know, again, back to the strength of people's spirit, and you know, what they've taught you, how it lives on. Um, so that's a lot, because oh man, that was, those two deaths really were such, I mean, they impacted my life in a big way. And I mean, like I said, the other thing is I have noted here, I didn't feel like I highlighted enough, but she was a very faithful woman, and that carried on through my mom, and um, then she passed it on to me, and so I'm just so grateful for that. I'm so grateful. Um, Now the year after that, I I lost an 11-year-old cousin, or not by blood, but this was someone that I grew up with, and it was my mom's best friend's daughter, and we, between them two, like, they would raise us together, and also her siblings, and so that's why we consider each other, cousins, and for, I think a lot of cultures are like this. Um, and so she died by suicide, and that was, I think, one of the first introductions, or like awareness that I had of on what suicide was. Not exactly, I think one of the what allowed me to get closer to build awareness to suicide was that, because of course throughout the years in high school, and you always hear about it because it happens so much. um and so she, this little girl, oh, we walk, girl, I mm, nossa, eu amo essa menina, eu amo muito. Trazia, tipo, trazia, trazia, não é a palavra português. Ela tinha esse aroma, eu não sei, de luz. Ela queria muita atenção, porque na eu não sei, ela tinha muitos problemas na família e tal, não sei. Não sei muito sobre isso, mas eu só sei que ela precisava muito de apoio emocional. She reminded me a little bit about me to a certain extent because I can see in her a child that was asking for just attention and like, hey, that emotional, very, very close emotional connection is one of those kids that would like you would be like, damn, you're so annoying. I remember my siblings would get so upset at her and other people because she would be so annoying, but then I felt this sort of like pain in me and like her being dismissed in many ways. And so I was always that person that sort of like took her in and protected her and she trusted me a lot and I have this oh my god. Me crying and laughing. I have this memory of her. Oh yo. Of us like when we were sleeping together, like she was sleeping over at my house and she was sleeping on the same mattress like bad as me. And I don't know what she did or what we were talking about, but she caught a laughing attack and I was laughing too and she ended up peeing herself. Oh my god. Mind you, she was like at this point probably like 10 years old or something like that, 9. I had such a good time with her and I know other people like she was so funny. Um and so I think her death, I mean, like she taught me so much and just unapologetically just showing up and showing up as yourself regardless of what people think and just having that energy and like bam 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 even if people would call it like attention um and uh oftentimes people say when people die by suicide, they ask, man, why do they do it? Or it's so selfish. Like they didn't think about other people, and I refuse to. Like I just to me, there's so much grace that I give. I mean, I've had my own experiences with suicidal ideation. Um, there's so much grace. It's not a I don't like to place blame and I don't see it in a negative light. I think each of our purpose in life, you know, once I guess what I was trying to say is like once that's completed, like so it be, right? Um I think no one has the right to judge anyone's decision. I don't know what she was going through and I don't think it makes her any less of a human. I don't think it makes her life any less meaningful. Having like her making that decision and I just have so much grace and love for her and you know, I don't think it's selfish. I think selfish would have been her staying here, feeling that pressure to stay here just because I just there's so much you have to go through and I say this as someone that has experienced thoughts of suicide and you have to really be at a level like I call it 6 feet deep mentally. There's so much that you have had to go through emotionally and probably physically to get to that point. And once the body says it's done, um, you know, for some people that's it. Now I've been extremely blessed and I mean I wish she was just as blessed and uh, the reason that I'm here and I say this all the time when I speak to people is really because of the relationships that God has blessed me with to come, that I have crossed paths with the friendships really because my first thoughts of suicide when I was in middle school and then again they came up in college and really the support system that I've been able to build with friends and like counselors and so on, academic counselors too, like that really has allowed me to see um to have faith in life and like and seeing that there's more for me to see and experience. Unfortunately, there's not people that that have that, and I acknowledge that. But again, I don't I don't think anyone anyone's life is any less meaningful or any less, or that it's a selfish decision. Um, because that just, it's so much, it puts like when we say these things, we take away from what that person was going through. It becomes selfish for us to think, man, they could have stayed just for me. Like, you know what I mean? Anyways, we walk. Te quiero mucho. Te extraño, querida. I would be. I'm so curious to know how she would have as a young adult. Oh my god. I love her so much. Um. Unfortunately, some years later, her mom passed away. She's my mom's best friend. And she passed away from cancer. Um, and I think part of that, um, was the death of her, her youngest daughter. And so again, heartbreak, heartbreak. Um, yeah, I was in college during, when this happened, unfortunately, even when she got diagnosed, I believe. And I also didn't have a very, I mean, my relationship with my mom during college was very rocky. And so, but I mean, I can fathom what it's like to lose your closest friend, especially knowing how much she meant to my mom. Like, because my mom doesn't, confide in a lot of people, and she was someone she literally told everything to, and so, yeah, and I remember also not being able to go to her funeral because I think I was taking exams or something. Actually, my cousin's the Weewa's funeral. I really, man, I didn't know if I wanted to go, and then someone told me, "Hey, like you should go." And I recall seeing her laying there, and I didn't recognize her. And from then on, I told myself I'm never seeing someone in their casket. Like I don't want that to be the last image I have of them. Man, it's so tough. It's just, I don't know. Grief is weird, man. Um, this is getting really long, but um, yeah, her mom passed away a couple years after that. I can't remember what year, but yeah, it was probably my junior year, I think, in college, so 2017 or something like that. Yeah. I think when I heard her news of her passing from cancer, I just a lot of times I kept asking myself, and I mean to this day, because the recent loss we actually had was because I mean she had, I think I understand she had cancer and another illness, but it's like the disease is, I don't know. Golf mine tell me, man, this disease is following us. Like I don't know what it has against us, but listen, God knows something I don't, so it's beyond me, and I pray for anyone that's going through a situation like that, that God gives them the strength and just the health to get through it. Because it is difficult, especially someone close to you. Um so I do want to close. And this is mostly in English. How crazy. I just feel like it just made more sense. I don't know. One day I can tell it in Portuguese and also in Spanish. But I think most people you know, that connect with me and would probably listen to this know both languages either way. Um, but either way, takeaways. I've talking about some takeaways regarding grief, and I think throughout the years, one of the most important things that I've, oh, excuse me, Jesus, um, one of the most important things that I've come to accept and acknowledge and give space to is really, really learning to give a seat at the table to every single emotion that we're feeling. And that's the first thing. Allow every emotion, and there's no set process on how long every phase of grief has to last, but I think acknowledging and respecting that the same way you know, we celebrate when we're happy and joyful. I think it's the same way that we should respect and maybe celebrate in that moment wouldn't be, the correct term. But I mean, I look back and I just sort of like, I'm not sure if rejoice or just, I really take it in and I allow myself to feel the feels. I think it's important. It's important because at the end of the day, we're humans. And um, I think the first loss, I mean, I think of people that have never had a significant loss in their life, and I'm here like six losses in or something. How many people was that? Di Mario, uh, yeah, six people. Um, and I just, yeah, I feel for those that have to go through it for the first time, and I just remind ourselves to allow ourselves to go through the process and respect it because it's really part of life. It's part of our journey, and um, I think when the time comes, it's gonna be really hard for you to accept it. It always is. Only when you're through it, you're able to value the process more. But um, yeah. I think also when you're going through it and you have people try to like console you, it means I don't want to say it means nothing, but you're so deep into the emotions that you're just like people like, "Oh, God knows it happens for a reason." Some people it's pointless. When people are going through grief, I think the most important thing is just to hold space and offer yourself. If they just letting them know that you're there. And I think there's also people that navigate it differently. So I think for some people, for example, telling them, "Hey, let's go on a walk." Like there's people that need a little bit of a push and just feeling the breeze, and you don't even have to talk with them. Just literally be in the space with them. I think helps. For me, it's always helped to have someone to talk to, and I like with my um, family members, especially going through stories of like memories that we may have of them. I think that really helps. Oh my god, so good. Um, I mean, I mentioned about the physicality piece of them no longer being here in the flesh, but the spirit living on. And for me, I like to remind myself that too because I know that I'm because of these experiences, I'm so comfortable with death. To be honest, um, I could die today, and I've told this to friends like, just know that I'm really, really happy with everything that I've done. Like I feel very accomplished. I am not upset that I didn't get to do X, Y, and Z. I've done so much, and I've just experienced a lot of life, and I'm grateful for that. At just 26 years old, right? Soon to be 27. Um, and I honor that, and I think I've because of this, thankfully, and this is one of the reasons why I'm very grateful that I've gone through this. It's easy for me to talk about death, and it's easy for me to accept that one day I won't be here, and the people that I love won't have me. Yes, it's sad, and I think when you sit on it, it becomes very heartbreaking. But um, I like to think I've left, and I do my best in making people feel emotions that maybe I guess create core memories for them. So um that's important, and I guess that reminds you to live um with intention. Um let's see. Um the other piece is because I know people come and go, and that's another thing I'm comfortable with. People coming and go in my life. Like for me to let go of friendships that aren't adding value to my life, I it can be difficult to a certain extent, but I don't dwell on it. It's yeah, so be it. Like that was the end of that chapter, and I find a lot of comfort and peace knowing that there are so many other people that they get to meet and other experiences that they get to have without me, which is okay. Um, and the same for me, right? I respect that. we're sort of like these flowing, I don't know what you call it, but we're just, all of us are like floating around and sort of like trying to navigate this whole thing. And I I don't know, it helps me let go a little bit more of relationships. Um I'm hoping that would be the case in romantic relationships. Cuz I think it will. I think in relationships it's yeah, I don't know. I mentioned that because I'm such a lover, and when it comes to, oh my god, that'll be another episode. Um but yeah, I am it's become easier for me to accept that people come and go, and that's okay. And especially if someone doesn't bring any value to me, it doesn't necessarily mean that they lose value in who they are as a person. This is very important to remember. When someone doesn't bring value into your life, it doesn't make them any less valuable as a person. It's just mean to you they don't bring the value, and like it's just you're not in alignment, and that's okay. And I think we have to acknowledge that and not take that, when we, at some point maybe we brought value in someone's life. Maybe I brought some you value in someone's life, or vice versa. They brought value in me, and at some point in our relationship, that sort of like stopped. And it's not anything negative. It's just it's a process of life. We all grow, and I think a lot of times many of us hope to get explanations or receive answers from people as to why this happened. And I've come to learn, grief has taught me life really just happens. um I think sure there's moments that really make sense to, for people to have conversations and for things to be explained, but letting people go and letting, relationships go, it's okay. I think we allow ourselves the gifts of experiencing more that life has to offer. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. um um I'm just sorry, I'm reading here the other point. I was putting here, um I mean, these last two I think I've spoke about, but especially the last one that I have here, like it's never ending, and like you choose to exist with it, right? It becomes a part of your story, and the pain it's a part of you. um and I guess the intensity of how you feel the pain is what changes throughout time, but there's moments that may pull you back into what it was the first time. And the last thing I have here is, I mean, what I said, the importance of for us to live with intention, or be intentional. How you make people feel is far more significant than the tangibles, um, than the actual, I guess, material. Um, it's why, I mean, I said, for me, it's very important for me to create safe spaces where people can express themselves. And I just connection, literally just connection. Connection is really important to me. And yeah, I think this is, it's a lot of sharing and being vulnerable, but throughout time, these are the things that have helped me navigate grief, or how I've, and or how I've navigated it. And I like to see it as a really beautiful opportunity to see life in a different, I guess, in a different light. And for me, I'm comfortable with the idea that we come and go and that we're here temporarily. For others, that may be difficult to accept, and I would hope that I continue being this comfortable, because I know my grandfather. He says he's not scared, but boy, it's it's tough seeing someone in their last days of, being here, and see him done struggle with accepting that. But yeah, I hope that I can make it easier in my last years and be less stubborn in, letting go, I guess, if that makes sense. Um Anywho, I really wanted to get this out. It is now 9 p.m. 9:19. I hope anyone got anything out of this. And yeah, this is a lot. Thank you for giving me the space for Um, yeah, supporting continuously and for trusting the stories that I have to share. And I hope you allow yourself to share your stories regardless of how you do. I I hope you allow yourself, and yeah, just remember your stories do have value, and they are worth sharing. All right, so I think this is it for now. I don't know when I'll record the next one, but God willing, I'll be able to do it soon enough. And it won't be as um much. I guess it won't take as long as this one did. Now let's see how long it takes me to upload this one. um. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. Gente, não falei muito português, mas é isso. Talvez no próximo, ou pode já fazer o próximo tudo em português, né? Não sei o que eu vou falar o próximo. Talvez fale sobre a minha experiência no Brasil. Pode ser? Não sei. Anyways, may God be with you all, and may you be high in spirits. And yeah, blessings to you, and yeah, I trust things will go well for you and for us, right? Let's continue enjoying life and living it as it goes. All right. Tchau, gente. Beijos e gratidão. Thank you so much. Until next time, all right? Ciao.